It's funny what you don't recall. Our first home in the suburb of Weston, which I barely remember. My eldest brother Orrin says he can remember being in the home's backyard with our mother in the early spring, helping the moms till some sort of garden out of the cold yard. March or early April. The garden's area was a rough rectangle laid out with popsicle sticks and twine. Orrin was removing rocks and hard clods from the mom's path as she worked the rented rototiller, a wheelbarrow-shaped, gas-driven thing that roared and snorted and bucked and, he remembers, seemed to propel the moms rather than vice versa. The moms very tall and having to stoop painfully to hold on, her feet leaving drunken prints in the tilled earth. He remembers that in the middle of the tilling I came terracing out the door and into the backyard wearing some sort of fuzzy red poo wear, crying, holding out something he said was really unpleasant looking in my upturned palm. He says I was around 5 and crying and was vividly red in the cold spring air. I was saying something over and over. He couldn't make it out until our mother saw me and shut down the tiller, ears ringing, and came over to see what I was holding out. This turned out to have been a large patch of mold. Orrin posits from some dark corner of the Weston home's basement, which was warm from the furnace and flooded every spring. The patch itself he describes as horrific, darkly green, glossy, vaguely hirsute, speckled with parasitic fungal points of yellow, orange, red. Worse, they could see that the patch looked oddly incomplete, gnawed on, and some of the nauseous stuff was smeared around my open mouth. "I ate this," was what I was saying. I held the patch out to the moms, who had her contacts out for the dirty work, and at first, bending way down, saw only her crying child, hand out, proffering. And in that most maternal of reflexes, she, who feared and loathed more than anything spoilage and filth, reached to take whatever her baby held out, as in how many used heavy Kleenex, spit-back candies, wads of chewed-out gum, in how many theaters, airports, back seats, tournament lounges. O stood there, he says, hefting a cold clod, playing with the Velcro on his puffy coat, watching as the moms, bent way down to me, hand-reaching, her lowering face with its presbyotic squint, suddenly stopped, froze, beginning to ID what it was I held out, countenancing evidence of oral contact with same. He remembers her face as past describing, her outstretched hand still roto-trembling, hung in the air before mine. "I ate this," I said. "Pardon me?" O says he can only remember saying something caustic as he limboed a crick out of his back. He says he must have felt a terrible impending anxiety. The moms refused ever even to go into the damp basement. I had stopped crying, he remembers, and simply stood there, the size and shape of a hydrant, in red PJs with attached feet, holding out the mold, seriously, like the report of some kind of audit. O says his memory diverges at this point, probably as a result of anxiety. In his first memory, the mom's path around the yard is a broad circle of hysteria. "God!" she calls out. "Help! My son ate this!" She yells in Orrin's second and more fleshed-out recollection, yelling it over and over, holding the speckled patch aloft in a pincer of fingers, running around and around the garden's rectangle, while O gaped at his first real sight of adult hysteria. Suburban neighbors' heads appeared in windows and over the fences looking. O remembers me tripping over the garden's laid-out twine, getting up dirty, crying, trying to follow. "God, help! My son ate this! Help!" She kept yelling, running a tight pattern just inside the square of string, and my brother Orrin remembers noting how even in hysterical trauma, her flight lines were plumb, her footprints Native American straight, her turns inside the ideogram of string, crisp and martial, crying, "My son ate this! Help!" and lapping me twice before the memory recedes.